I'm changing who I am. I'm making a new plan.
Hello everybody and welcome to this new format Boreal Minds Anime Artstation, where I handcraft items and collectibles from my and hopefully your favorite animes and anime-like shows. As a child, one of my main obsessions was Bakugan.
What are you gonna do? The odds are stacked against you. Back against the wall, gotta give it your all. This is Bakugan!
I loved everything about it. The show, the characters, the Bakugan designs, the toys from the first 2 to 3 seasons, all the gadgets you could buy, the magazines, and most importantly, this game, which I have twice, and for the Wii too. This was my first Bakugan game I played. You can create your own unique brawler, and the best thing, you don't just get a random Bakugan as your partner or Drago. No, you get the one and only Leonidas. I am not kidding when I tell you this game has a grip on me no other game has. Like, not even Skyrim or Slime Rancher or the Yu-Gi-Oh! Nintendo DS games, no. This game is a legend. Not only is Leonidas a badass and completely new Bakugan, which as a kid surprised me. No. You can actually customize him. You can choose one of 6 elements and Leonidas will have a different color scheme according to it, which, like, that's fucking awesome. Unfortunately, no other Bakugan game after the first one did this, and it's like, you had the perfect formula, why did you change it? I'm still a little salty about that, but whatever. I chose Ventus, but to be honest, I think Darkus is more fitting for me, but Ventus Leonidas is still my guy. And when I say I was obsessed with the Leonidas, I meant it. I drew him a lot, from like age 10 to 25, so to now. I just made countless artworks for him. Regular Leonidas, own evolutions, traditional, on paper, digital. I posted my drawings on DeviantArt and even made an own Instagram account called Mecha Leonidas. I'm not using it anymore, but it should still be up. I drew official Leonidas and Omega Leonidas, my own evolution Eclipse Leonidas, or my own take on Leonidas for the Battle Planet reboot. This collaboration with Bakugan Life from Instagram, another own evolution called Eon Leonidas, and lastly a drawing of the official rebooted Leonidas for the Switch game in different color variations that actually got reposted in a story by the official Bakugan account. All these artworks are part of my Bakugan journey. But there has been a different part of the story I haven't shown you, that we will continue today. You are probably familiar with the ever-rising 3D printing community that is also present in the Bakugan community. Fans all around the world print their own Bakugan and customize them. As you know, the OG Leonidas never got a physical toy release, which I'm still mad about, but that only motivated me to create my own Leonidas so I could stop using my other Ventus dragons as replacements. However, back then and even now, building a fully functional Leonidas toy is a little out of my range, even though I am thinking about how I could make it work. Anyways, years ago, I think I started painting this ping pong ball, lol, but I wanted more, a moving female Bakugan. Didn't really work twice, so I shifted to figurines. Still had to get the gist of it, and by attempt 5 my female Leonidas actually didn't look too bad. I was and I'm still pretty proud of him, even though I know I can't compare him to anything 3D printed or official. But today we'll make an upgraded and even more accurate Leonidas out of non-baking clay. Let's go! At first I used my crafting notebook and made a few sketches of the body parts I will need. I used the ball form from the game and the 3D model of No Shame in Feeding as a reference. In the end I didn't use them that much, but it was still a helpful guide to get the dimensions right. Let's go to the crafting part. Here are my materials: a cutting board, non-baking clay, cutter knife, blades, various acrylic paints, my color palette aka a plate, metallic Gundam markers, a mechanical pencil, different brushes, baking parchment, paper, ruler, sketchbook, my arch nemesis superglue, I hate superglue, and the MVP Clearcoat, also toothpicks and sanding paper. So at this point I should probably point out that this isn't the first time I'm working with this clay and that I made a lot of amulets from the show Hunted. However, those were a little more easy to make since they are basically just flat and not this three-dimensional, like this all-round figure. I started with the most easy part, the lower body, cause I just had to basically make a ball and cut it in half and it was done. The other half I cut in 3 parts. The middle part will become the head, so I made it a little more wide, and the other 2 parts will become the wings. I already knew that it's completely fine if these body parts are a little rougher, because I plan to make them a little smoother and more detailed after they are fully dried and can be modified with a knife and sanding paper. Always be careful when using that stuff. I always made sure that my clay stayed wet so there are no cracks in it. When I used too much water, I just waited a few minutes until the parts were dry enough to not just glide across my table. That's when I cut 2 parts out of the lower body, which I reused as the feet. Even though I worked with this material before, I'm in no way, shape or form a pro at what I'm doing. I just wing most of it and just trust the process, and it works for the most part. There are probably a lot of mistakes, like technical mistakes, but as of right now everything works relatively fine, so I'm not going to look into how to professionally work with self-drying clay. The arms were relatively easy to make, just 2 flat pieces that I cut in form and 2 little hands. Also a mouthpiece and horn I didn't use in the end, as well as a tail that I confused for the horn and used that in the end. It looked better anyways. After a few hours of drying, they looked like this, and I made a first check if the pieces are fitting, at least vaguely, and they sort of did. You could see that it was supposed to be a Bakugan, if you know what a Bakugan is. The next part was scary because I had to use the sanding paper to smooth out a few pieces and make the bottom more flat. I put some water on the sanding paper because I thought maybe that would do something, and it did. It made a mess and destroyed the paper. Probably would have been better to just use it dry, but I was scared that something would break and I thought with water it will be smoother. I did the same thing with the arms and it was pretty easy, even though I was really scared to break something. Then came the back and shoulder part that was not round enough. I was really trying to make it more round so it looks more believable that this whole Bakugan could close into a ball. But at a certain point I was a little scared to go overboard, so I just stopped. Then came the wings, and of course a minute before I thought to myself, damn, this is going really well, until it didn't and I broke the wing. Great. In comes arch nemesis super glue, which I spilled over 4 of my fingers, and believe me, it's not the last time, you just don't see it that well on camera, but it happened 4 times in total. After that mess, I had to work on the most iconic thing about Leonidas, the head shape. Leonidas has a relatively narrow and slim head, very different from, for example, Drago or Hydronoid. This is what makes Leo Leo, and while I'm not unhappy with the outcome, I could have gone a little further shaping the head, but since I already broke one piece, I was a little scared and didn't want to take a risk. I also covered the broken wing in clay again, so the clay crack isn't too obvious and hopefully a little more stable again. Not sure if that actually is the case. In the end, I wanted to carve in the markings of Leo with a toothpick, but that wasn't working too well, so I used some wire, but that also didn't really work. So I decided I'm just gonna draw them on. And I finally found the courage to use the cutter knife to make some more adjustment, and I'm a little salty I didn't use it sooner because it actually worked pretty well. The parts came out looking pretty good and I was confident that the end result would be looking good too. Just trust the process. Clearcoat in the end is the fix for everything, so I wasn't too worried. Now comes the part I thought would be harder than it actually was, the painting part. I put an official Bakugan from season 1 onto my set to make sure the colors are somewhat matching while mixing them, and that worked surprisingly well. Usually I'm pretty bad at mixing shades of green and like purple, but I got the right tone after like 2 attempts and later ruined it a little bit, but whatever. I painted all the parts turquoise that, well, are supposed to have that color, and then I wanted to be fancy and made everything look a little textured. So I made a slightly darker color and went over the whole thing. And I hoped the color would only stick to a few parts so everything is a little textured, but that didn't work. The color went on the surface like normal. I probably should have used a different brush or like maybe a dry brush, but it was too late for that, so I just committed to it. It doesn't change too much, so I was okay with it and painted over all the pieces. Then I mixed another darker and more blue-green tone to draw parts of the markings, like the ones on the front of the lower body. I used a very fine brush and a toothpick for it, but these markings will be repainted later in a different color. Next up, the light green parts, or apple green, I guess. I mixed it with my sparkly golden acrylic paint to give it a metallic look, and it turned out pretty cool. It's a really good looking highlight color, to be honest. After finishing with that paint, I used the dark green of my Gundam markers to once again draw the dark green markings and to make an outline to the sparkly green. I used a toothpick because the last time I used Gundam markers they permanently stained my brushes and I didn't want to risk it. It also was pretty sticky. And the toothpick method worked better than expected. The finished parts look pretty nice and even. My hand on the other hand is a mess. Let's finish up the whole process with some Clearcoat. Always use Clearcoat outside, never in your home. And make sure your parts are heavy or stable enough to not just be blown away by the pressure of the can. I didn't take my advice. Off camera I also sprayed the other sides of the pieces and let them dry a bit. And since the Clearcoat has a heavy odor, I let them sit outside for a few hours so it wears off. Here are the finished pieces. I was super happy how they turned out and pretty excited because at that point I thought there was nothing that could go extremely wrong. Well, I still had to work with super glue, so maybe my last statement was indeed a lie, but actually everything went relatively smooth. The parts were easy to assemble. I only had to sand down the end parts of the arms so I could glue them against the shoulder parts a bit better. In the end everything looks more or less symmetrical and even. Just don't check out the back, lol. The one part that did stress me out were the wings because of the little, well, cracked wings and superglue accident a few hours earlier. I was super nervous for those because I didn't know how stable they actually are at that point and I kinda lost faith in them. I also had to sand down one side so it would be more easy to glue it to the back, and that was nerve-wracking, but it worked out pretty good. Against all odds, everything went well, worked, and here he is, my own Ventus Leonidas made out of non-baking clay. I am incredibly proud how he turned out. At the beginning I always had a thought in my head, what if in the end he does look better than my last attempt? What if after 7 years the result is still the same? Even though this could have happened because I didn't like practice or exercise this craft, because I'm usually a drawing artist. I just hoped I would be better with a more easy to work with material and that maybe, you know, my handcraft skills and like, I don't know, dimensional thinking is a little more advanced than it was 7 years ago. And I guess it is. Yes, I know the lines are a little bit wobbly, I winged some of the patterns, gonna be honest with you, and it's not 100% symmetrical or game accurate, but I love him so much. There's just a certain charm about self-made items. He also is pretty heavy and sits really nice, like on the hand, and it's pretty nice to handle. Here he is next to my Ventus Gargonoid. Yeah, colors are a little off, but actually not too bad. And when I look at him with my glasses off, I just see Leonidas. All the imperfections don't even matter. It's like, you know, it's like having my little friend next to me. It's awesome. He got a special place in my glass cabinet next to Naga. I think he fits in pretty well with my other Bakugan. After like 15 years of waiting for a real-life Leonidas, I finally have one by my side and I couldn't be more happy. Now I am patiently waiting for my Digimon Tamers moment. I mean, 25 is not too old to become an anime protagonist, right? Kafka got my back, I know this. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's the first long-form video that's not about Pokemon, Fakemon or drawings, so I don't even know how many people clicked on this, but for the ones that did click on it, I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like, comment and subscribe to the channel, and see you in the comments.